Title: 50 Insanest Geography Facts You Weren't Taught. You think you know the map of the United States? Well, what if I told you that you could leave a city in Connecticut, travel north, and your first border crossing would be into New York? What if you travel south, still New York, east, you guessed it, New York, and west, also New York? What if I told you there is an island off the coast of South Carolina that's home to thousands of monkeys? Or that the state of Maine is actually closer to Africa than Florida is? It seems like everything we learned in school barely scratched the surface. So, maybe toss out those old textbooks, because we're about to redraw the American map as you know it. From coast to coast, the United States is a land of sprawling cities, vast wilderness, and some of the most bizarre geographical realities on the planet. We're all taught the basics: 50 states, a few big rivers, and a couple of mountain ranges. But the truth is so much stranger. We've found 50 of the most mind-blowing and downright weird geographical facts about the United States that they definitely left out of your high school class. Get ready to question everything you thought you knew. We'll start with the land itself, a place carved by fire, ice, and mind-boggling forces, which created some truly wild oddities. Let's kick things off with a real brain twister. What's the northernmost, westernmost, and easternmost state in the US? The answer to all three is Alaska. It's obviously the most northern. It's also the most western. But here's the kicker: its Aleutian Islands stretch so far west that they actually cross the 180th meridian into the eastern hemisphere, making it technically the easternmost state too. California is home to both the highest and lowest points in the contiguous United States, and they're practically neighbors. Mount Whitney soars to 14,505 feet, while Death Valley's Badwater Basin sinks to 280 feet below sea level. The craziest part: they're only about 85 miles apart. The United States is an ecological powerhouse, with nearly every major biome on Earth. From the icy tundra of Alaska and the tropical rainforests of the Pacific Northwest to the scorching deserts of the Southwest and the vibrant coral reefs off Florida, the U.S. has it all. The only major biome it's missing is a savanna. If you're looking for sunshine, look no further than Yuma, Arizona. It is officially the sunniest place on the entire planet, getting more than 4,000 hours of sunlight every single year. The deepest lake in the United States is Crater Lake in Oregon, plunging to a depth of 1,943 feet. It was formed in the crater of a collapsed volcano and is famous for its stunningly clear, pure water. Which state has a longer coastline, California or Maine? Surprisingly, the answer is Maine. While California's coast is a respectable 3,427 miles, Maine's incredibly jagged and indented shoreline stretches for a whopping 3,478 miles. And Maine has another secret: a desert. Tucked away in New England is the Desert of Maine, a 40-acre patch of glacial sand that was uncovered after poor farming practices eroded the topsoil. When you picture a desert, you probably think of blistering heat, but the Great Basin, which covers most of Nevada, is a cold desert. Its high altitude and northern latitude mean it gets frigid winters, a huge contrast to the hot deserts of the Southwest. Speaking of deserts, Arizona is unique because it contains parts of all four major North American deserts: the Great Basin, the Sonoran, the Chihuahuan, and the Mojave. The Appalachian Mountains in the east are ancient, rounded, and slowly eroding. But the Rocky Mountains out west, they're still growing. Tectonic forces are still pushing them upwards, making them one of the more active and dynamic ranges in the country. The infamous San Andreas Fault in California is constantly moving, shifting at a rate of about 2 inches per year. This slow, steady creep is what builds the tension responsible for the state's frequent earthquakes. We mentioned Alaska's east-west dominance, but it's also the only state with coastlines on two different oceans: the Arctic Ocean to the north and the Pacific Ocean to the south. Off the coast of South Carolina lies Morgan Island, a place where humans are forbidden. Why? Because it's home to a colony of over 4,000 rhesus monkeys. The colony was established in 1979 for medical research after India banned the export of the monkeys. The mighty Mississippi River is famous for its powerful southern flow, but in the winter of 1811 and 1812, it actually flowed backward. A series of massive earthquakes centered in New Madrid, Missouri, were so powerful they caused the ground to deform and temporarily reverse the river's course. The Big Island of Hawaii is literally still under construction. Lava from the Kilauea volcano continuously flows into the ocean, where it cools and hardens into new land, making the island just a little bit bigger every year. Alaska is also home to the Tongass National Forest, the largest national forest in the United States. And this isn't just any forest. It's a massive temperate rainforest, one of the largest in the world. Want to find diamonds? Head to Arkansas. The Crater of Diamonds State Park is the only active diamond mine in the United States, and it has a finders, keepers policy. Visitors can search for diamonds and keep any they unearth. The official population of Menominee, Nebraska is 1. Its sole resident is a woman named Elsie Eiler, who is the town's mayor, clerk, treasurer, and the bartender at the local tavern. She grants her own liquor license and pays taxes to herself. If you love mountains, Nevada is the state for you. It has the most mountain ranges in the lower 48. With over 2,000 named peaks, you can see a mountain from almost anywhere in the state. Alaska not only touches 2 oceans, but it's also the only state that extends into the Arctic Circle. And as if that weren't enough, it's home to Denali, the tallest peak in all of North America, standing at 20,310 feet. Central Florida is known as Sinkhole Alley. The state sits on a porous bedrock of limestone, which can dissolve in rainwater, creating huge underground caverns that frequently collapse into sinkholes. On the coast of Oregon, at Cape Perpetua, you can find what looks like a giant drain in the ocean. Known as Thor's Well, it's a hole in the rock that, at high tide, seems to be swallowing the sea. The Caribbean has more than 7,000 islands, but the vast majority of them are uninhabited. Fewer than 150 have permanent residents, and many of these are U.S. territories like Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. By surface area, the largest freshwater lake in the world is Lake Superior. It's so massive that it borders 3 states: Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, as well as Canada. The Appalachian Trail is the longest hiking-only footpath on Earth. This epic trail winds its way through 14 states, from Georgia all the way to Maine. Now let's look at the human side of the map, where borders, population patterns, and strange historical decisions have created a landscape just as wild as the natural one. Look at a flat map, and you'd swear Florida is the closest state to Africa. But you'd be wrong. The easternmost point of Maine, a place called Quoddy Head, is actually about 1,000 miles closer to Africa than Miami is. The distance to Morocco from Maine is just 3,154 miles. The United States might seem spread out, but its population is heavily tilted to the east. About 80% of all Americans live east of a line running through San Antonio, Texas. The western half of the country is, by comparison, remarkably empty. In Wyoming, cows are king. The state is home to more cattle than people, with a ratio of about 2 cows for every 1 human. Kentucky is a state divided by time. The boundary between the eastern and central time zones slices the state almost perfectly in half, which means you can drive just a few miles and lose or gain an hour. There is only one spot in the entire country where 4 states meet. The Four Corners Monument marks the exact point where you can stand in Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah all at the same time. California holds a unique Olympic record. It's the only state to have hosted both the Summer and Winter Olympic Games, with Los Angeles hosting the summer events and Squaw Valley, now Palisades, Tahoe, hosting the winter ones. Pull up a globe and you'll find another shocker. The city of Tampa, Florida, is actually located farther west than the entire mainland of South America. The southern continent is positioned much farther east in the Atlantic than most of us realize. We know Alaska borders Canada, but it's the only U.S. state that also borders another country, Russia. The 2 nations are separated by the narrow maritime boundary of the Bering Strait. The city of Portland, Oregon, could easily have been named Boston. Its founders, who were from New England, couldn't agree on a name, so they settled it with a coin toss. Portland won. This brings us back to our hook. From the city of Stamford, Connecticut, you can travel north, south, east, or west, and the first state you'll enter is New York. Go north or west, and you hit mainland New York. Go south across the Long Island Sound, and you hit Long Island, which is part of New York. And because of Long Island's shape, if you head straight east, you'll eventually hit its eastern tip, also New York. New York City is so large and dense that 43 of its buildings are big enough to have their very own zip codes. The sheer size of the United States is hard to wrap your head around. But think about this. If the entire population of the world lived as densely as people do in New York City, every single person on Earth could fit inside the state of Texas. Alaska wasn't always American. It was a Russian territory until 1867, when the United States bought the vast expanse of land for just $7.2 million, a deal that turned out to be one of the greatest bargains in history. For a long time, Maine wasn't its own state. It was actually part of Massachusetts until the early 1800s, officially gaining statehood in 1820. Vermont has a unique architectural rule. There are no buildings in the entire state taller than 124 feet. This is to preserve the state's scenic, natural beauty and prevent skylines from being dominated by skyscrapers. Wisconsin is famously known for its cheese, and they take it seriously. It's the only state to have an official state microbe, Lactococcus lactis, a bacterium that's essential for making cheese. West Virginia is the only state that lies entirely within a single mountain range, the Appalachians. It also has a unique political history, as it was formed during the Civil War by seceding from the Confederate state of Virginia. Many states are named after historical figures, but Washington is the only one named after a U.S. president, George Washington. With its enormous landmass and tiny population, Alaska is by far the least densely populated state in the nation. The United States isn't just the 50 states. It also includes several territories around the globe, like Puerto Rico in the Caribbean, and Guam and American Samoa in the Pacific Ocean. The border between the United States and Canada is the longest international border in the world, stretching over 5,500 miles. Here's another map-bending fact. Parts of Northern California are actually farther north than the southernmost point of Canada. While California's northern border sits at the 42nd parallel, Canada's middle island in Lake Erie dips down to a latitude of 41.7 N. The town of Centralia, Pennsylvania, has been on fire since 1962. A fire set in a landfill ignited an underground coal seam, creating a subterranean inferno that forced the town's evacuation. That fire is still burning today and could burn for another century. Wyoming is the only state with a population under 600,000, making it the least populous state in the country. And we'll end where we started, bending the map. Remember the Four Corners Monument? It's still the only place in the United States where you can physically be in 4 states: Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah, all at the exact same time. So, is your mental map of America completely shattered? If you learned something new and want more mind-bending facts, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. From a town with just one person to a state that exists into hemispheres, the geography of the United States is infinitely more complex and fascinating than we're ever taught. These 50 facts prove that there are still countless secrets hidden in the mountains, coastlines, and borders of America. The next time you look at a map, remember that the simple lines and familiar shapes are hiding a much stranger reality. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.